In many spiritual traditions, destiny swapping is believed to happen when a person tries to spiritually take, block, delay, or manipulate another person's blessings, success, opportunities, relationships, or life path. Some believe this is done through rituals, curses, spirit invocation, symbolic ceremonies, or the use of personal objects connected to the victim. Jealousy, envy, greed, revenge, and the desire for power are often described as the motivation behind these practices. Stories about destiny swapping exist in African, Caribbean, Asian, and ancient traditions, where spiritual attacks are believed to affect a person's peace, finances, health, marriage, dreams, or future opportunities. In many teachings, fear and emotional weakness are also seen as ways a person becomes vulnerable to manipulation. However, beliefs about destiny and witchcraft differ greatly between cultures and religions. Many spiritual leaders encourage people to focus on prayer, wisdom, self-development, discipline, healing, and positive living rather than fear. False accusations and paranoia have historically caused harm in many societies, so discernment and compassion are considered important. The village slept under the silence of the moon, but deep inside the forest, hidden beyond the ancient trees, a fire burned in a circle of stones. 5 hooded figures stood around it, whispering in a language almost forgotten by mankind. In the center of the circle was a small wooden table covered with black candles, ashes, bones, and a photograph of a young man named Kiala. Kiala was known throughout the city for his wisdom, success, and spiritual gifts. People respected him. They said blessings followed him wherever he walked. But not everyone celebrated his rise. Among those watching him was a man named Nduku, a jealous former friend whose heart had become poisoned by envy. Nduku wanted power, wealth, and influence. He believed Kiala possessed a destiny he deserved for himself. Consumed by greed, he searched for secret societies and dark spiritual groups who promised hidden power in exchange for loyalty and sacrifice. The leader of the hooded figure spoke with a cold voice. "Every blessing has a gate," he whispered, "and every gate can be broken." The ritual began. The followers placed symbolic objects into the fire. Pieces of cloth, written names, and offerings representing fear, anger, and hatred. Drums echoed through the forest as the group called upon dark spiritual forces they believed would help them weaken Kiala's mind and steal his future. But every ritual came with a price. Night after night, Nduku became more obsessed. Strange dreams haunted him. Shadows appeared in mirrors. His thoughts became darker, and his soul restless. The more power he chased, the more peace disappeared from his life. Meanwhile, Kiala noticed strange things happening around him. Friends turned against him. Business opportunities collapsed. He woke up from terrible nightmares and felt a heavy darkness surrounding him. Yet, instead of falling into fear, he sought wisdom from an elder spiritual healer named Mama Sefiu. "The battle is not only around you," she told him. "It is also inside you. Darkness feeds on fear, anger, and hatred." Mama Sefiu instructed Kiala to strengthen his spirit through prayer, discipline, truth, cleansing rituals, and self-control. Day by day, Kiala regained his strength while Nduku fell deeper into obsession and madness. One final night, during the largest ritual, the forest trembled under thunder. The candles suddenly extinguished. The leader screamed as the wind roared through the trees. Nduku collapsed to the ground, realizing too late that the darkness he tried to control had begun controlling him. The old healer's words proved true. Evil promises power, but demands the soul in return. By sunrise, the ritual circle was abandoned. Ashes covered the earth where the fire once burned. Kiala survived, wiser and stronger, while Nduku disappeared into the shadows of his own choices. And from that day forward, the people of the village remembered a lesson older than fear itself. A stolen destiny can never bring true peace. The rain never stopped falling over the city of Gravenholt. People walked quickly through the gray streets, eyes lowered, pretending not to notice the suffering sleeping beside train stations, under bridges, and behind abandoned buildings. The city called itself modern, civilized, and advanced, but hidden beneath the lights and government speeches was another world, a silent kingdom of broken people. Among them was a man named Elias. Nobody remembered when Elias first appeared on the streets. Some said he had once been intelligent, full of dreams and ambition. Others whispered that he used to speak about spiritual visions, corruption, and hidden systems controlling weak and vulnerable people. But now he wandered through the city with torn clothes, hollow eyes, and scars on his arms from years of addiction and survival. Every morning began the same way. Cold concrete, empty stomach, fear. The shelters were overcrowded. The streets were violent. Drug dealers waited at every corner like vultures feeding on despair. Women disappeared into underground trafficking rings. Children born into poverty inherited fear before they could even speak. The government promised help on giant television screens, yet the people in the underground districts rarely saw real change. Instead, police patrols pushed the homeless further into hidden alleys where the public would not see them. Social workers came and went. Clinics distributed pills by the handful. "Take these," the doctor said. "They will stabilize you." But many people returned worse than before, numb, disconnected, dependent, silent. Elias watched it happen for years. Some patients shuffled through the streets, unable to think clearly anymore. Others became addicted to medication mixed with street drugs. Many lost themselves completely. The city called them mentally ill, unstable, dangerous, broken. But deep inside, Elias believed something darker was happening. Not magic, not demons hiding under beds, but a system feeding on suffering. A machine built from greed, corruption, fear, and control. One winter night, Elias met a woman named Sophia near the abandoned subway tunnels. She had escaped years of abuse from family members who sold drugs and exploited vulnerable girls for money. Her body carried bruises, but her eyes carried something heavier: hopelessness. "They want people weak," she whispered beside a burning trash barrel. "Weak people obey." Elias said nothing, because part of him believed it too. The city kept people trapped in invisible chains. Poverty, fear, addiction, debt, trauma, humiliation. Those who tried to speak were mocked. Those who broke down were medicated. Those who fought back disappeared into prisons, psychiatric wards, or addiction. Far above the streets, politicians in expensive suits held conferences about public safety and economic growth, while entire neighborhoods starved below them. Billionaires built towers of glass, while families froze outside train stations. And the people slowly stopped believing they deserved freedom. That was the true prison. Not bars, not walls. A prison built inside the mind. Elias eventually discovered an underground group meeting beneath an old church outside the city center. They were not rich. They had no political power. Some were former addicts. Others escaped abuse, trafficking, or gang violence. But unlike the institutions above, these people listened. They spoke about healing, discipline, truth, spiritual restoration, breaking cycles of fear. An old African woman named Mama Adissa led many of the gatherings. She believed modern society had forgotten the human soul. "The world teaches people to survive," she said, "but never to heal." She rejected blind dependence on both corrupt institutions and destructive street culture. She taught the homeless how trauma changes the mind, how addiction destroys identity, and how fear can pass through generations like poison. Slowly, Elias changed. Not through magic, not through secret rituals, but through community, truth, discipline, spiritual reflection, and people who refused to see him as garbage. He stopped taking the drugs, destroying his body. He learned to read again. He helped feed others living under bridges. Sophia escaped the traffickers and began helping abused women find shelter. But the city itself never truly changed. Corruption remained. Greed remained. Exploitation remained. Every day new souls entered the machine. And Elias finally understood the darkest secret of all. The greatest destiny theft was not supernatural. It was a world that convinced human beings they were worthless long before they ever discovered who they were meant to become. Mama Adissa stood before the people gathered inside the old underground church. Rain hammered against the broken windows while candles flickered across tired faces marked by pain, addiction, abuse, and years of suffering. She looked slowly at each person before speaking. "They tried to break you," she said softly. "They tried to make you hate yourself. They tried to convince you that you were forgotten." The room fell silent. "But listen carefully," she continued. "The world cannot destroy chosen souls unless they surrender their own spirit. Darkness can tempt you. Fear can surround you. Evil can whisper into your ears every day. But your heart decides who you become." Elias lowered his eyes as her words entered his soul. "Every human being will face temptation," Mama Adissa said. "Some are tempted by money, others by hatred, lust, power, addiction, violence, greed, or despair. Even the strongest souls are tested. That is the law of this world." She pointed toward the city above them. "The powerful believe suffering creates obedient people. They want broken minds, addicted bodies, and hopeless hearts because hopeless people stop fighting for truth. But they fear one thing above all else." She paused. "People who awaken." A cold wind passed through the room. Because once a human being remembers their value, remembers their soul, remembers their purpose, chains begin to break. One young man raised his trembling voice. "But why does evil keep winning?" Mama Adissa smiled sadly. "Because many people feed it without realizing it. Every lie, every act of cruelty, every betrayal, every moment of cowardice strengthens darkness inside the world. Evil survives through human choices." She stepped closer to Elias. "But goodness survives the same way." Tears filled Sophia's eyes. "The battle is not only spiritual," Mama Adissa continued. "It is also mental, emotional, and physical. They attack your confidence, your dreams, your identity. They want you to believe you are nothing." Her voice became stronger. "But the soul that refuses to surrender becomes dangerous to every corrupt system." The candles shook violently as thunder echoed outside. "Never forget this," she declared. "Darkness cannot create. It can only corrupt, manipulate, distract, and consume. But a disciplined spirit connected to truth becomes stronger through suffering." Elias finally understood. The real war was not simply against governments, drugs, violence, or corrupt people. The real war was inside the human heart. Every day people stood between fear and courage, between hatred and compassion, between destruction and healing, between surrender and purpose. And no ritual, no corrupt leader, no system, and no darkness could fully own a soul that refused to give up on itself. That was the secret the world feared most.